Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today we have some more news about 9th edition. Games Workshop released some more info about command points and army structure, so I figured I'd make another quick video to let you guys know about this new information and my thoughts on it. So without wasting much time, let's just jump right into it. Taking command of your points. And we're back on the Warhammer community page again, and so yeah, let's get started. Anyone who's played a game of Warhammer 40,000 with a Battleforged army will know how awesome it is to have loads of command points to spend. In fact, for many players, much of their army building process has been geared towards ensuring they would have as many at their disposal as possible, and preferably a way to replenish command points during the battle too. Well, the good news is that you're about to get more command points, so read on and find out about it all. And this is very true. Like, even my recent Space Marine video that I was playing, I was saying that in 8th edition, for Space Marines, you'd build 2 battalions or a brigade, so that way you got enough command points to actually do the cool stuff that you want to do with Space Marines on the tabletop game. I'm glad that they noticed that, and they're trying to make armies so that you don't have to be stuck building that one thing. Although, based off of what I looked at, it might actually go back down to... There's obviously always going to be, like, the most optimal way to play the game. I don't think there's a way to ever balance a game where everything is viable. There's always going to be a couple options that are more optimal. But with that said, let's read on and figure stuff out. All is fair in love and Warhammer 40,000. You don't just get more command points in the new edition, both players will also receive the same amount according to the size of the game. So this was in the video I released yesterday, and yeah, so it was kind of like what I was saying. I figured that it was 500 or lower, and then for here, it was in between this size and this size and this size, so that makes sense. So if you're playing a game that has 500 or less points, you get 3 command points for your army. If you're playing a game with 501 to 1,000 points, you get 6 command points. If you're playing a game with 1,001 points to 2,000, you get 12 command points. And if you're playing 2,001 to 3,000, you get 18 command points. So here's the thing, and I talked a lot with my patrons and other people yesterday because we're all excited about the new edition. So we're talking about the new rules and discussing stuff. We're not sure if it's going to be, if this somewhere in here is going to be the new tournament standard, or somewhere in here is going to be the new tournament standard. Because, like I said yesterday, at the beginning of 8th edition, you could have a Space Marine army that was 2,000 points, but by the end of 8th edition, that 2,000 point Space Marine army was only about 1,600 points, because Space Marines got a lot of point reductions over the course of 8th edition. So because of that, with the points increase that Games Workshop is doing now, a 2,000 point Space Marine list at the end of 8th edition is probably going to be somewhere in this mark because of the points increases that they made yesterday. Which, by the way, if you're watching this video and haven't watched the one from yesterday, I'll have a link in the description, and there should be a card popping up in the top right of the screen to send you there. Watch that one first and then come back to this, because yeah, there's more information about this kind of stuff. So yeah, we're not sure if this is going to be the new standard or this is going to be the new standard. We're just going to have to wait and see how the games feel, how many models we can fit in each one of these armies. Yeah, so I guess we'll see about that. I think a lot of people are leaning towards this being somewhere in here being the standard because of the amount of command points you get. But again, I still feel like 12 is perfect, except for certain armies. Like, I almost forgot about it in my video yesterday, but armies like orcs, they kind of need like 18 command points in order to function properly, because a lot of their good stratagems are very expensive. Stuff like Unstoppable Green Tide and Get Stuck In Lads and stuff like that. What I was saying though, and why my argument for this one for an army like orcs, why it would still be okay, is because first off, you'll have less models, so you don't need that many command points. And on top of that, I believe Games Workshop has said there's going to be other ways of generating command points, like in the command phase. Like, I played Age of Sigmar the other day, which, if you haven't seen, I have a video about that on the channel that I just uploaded earlier today. And in Age of Sigmar, they have the hero phase, which is now, I assume, going to be similar to the command phase that they're implementing in Warhammer 40k 9th edition. And in that game, you get a command point at the beginning of every battle round. So if that's the case, an orc player throughout the game is going to get around 18 command points. That's assuming that we get a free command point in the command phase every turn. There might also be other ways now that you can do it. There might be like a generic warlord trait that allows you to generate command points, stuff like that. There's a lot we don't know about 9th edition, but it's fun to speculate. So yeah, I'm just throwing those ideas out there. Mustering your army. So if you don't earn command points by taking additional detachments, do they still interact with each other in any way? The answer is yes, but how they do has been turned on its head. Instead of earning you command points, each detachment you take will instead cost you command points. However, it's worth noting that the command points spent on a core detachment patrol, battalion, or brigade are refunded if it also includes your warlord. So your detachment is usually free. An army drawn exclusively from the same faction and comprising a single detachment is the most strategically flexible on account of their experience fighting alongside one another, and therefore offers the most command points. And that's a beautiful Custodes army. I can't wait to get my Custodes painted up. But here's a battalion, and it's pretty close to the same as before. I took a quick look at this before I started making my video. So we got a couple interesting things here. Restrictions. All units must be from the same faction. This detachment cannot include any understrength units. This just means it's going to be harder to soup certain things. For example, you used to be able to, I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but you could actually still, you can't soup the Imperium keyword, Chaos keyword, or Eldari keyword, but you could soup other keywords. For example, you could have Ultramarines and Imperial Fists in the same detachment, because that would be an Astartes detachment. So you'd be using that keyword instead of Imperium. And a more popular way to do something like this, and this was done for like possessed bombs and stuff like that, you would take a Nurgle battalion, and you'd have like Nurglings as your troops, but then you'd have like a Chaos Sorcerer as your HQ, because he has the Nurgle keyword, because maybe he's Death Guard or something like that. And yeah, so that was a big thing with Chaos that they used to do. So based off of what this battalion says, that type of Chaos list I don't think is going to be a thing anymore, but we'll just have to wait and see. So this is now just restricting all of that, so you can't do that anymore, at least with battalions. This also makes me think that there's going to be other detachments that allow you to soup up and do other things. So that's going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see if those actually get released. But again, based off of this wording, I think that's going to be a thing. Another cool thing is the command benefits. You get +3 command points if your warlord is part of this detachment. And notice that this detachment costs 3 command points. So you basically cancel each other out if your warlord is in this battalion. And then dedicated transports, this is another change. Can include 1 for each infantry unit taken. So how it worked in 8th edition, and I'm assuming a decent amount of people didn't know this either, you could bring a Land Raider, and then you could bring a dedicated transport for that Land Raider. It doesn't mean that you put the Land Raider in the dedicated transport. They don't have to interact in any way. But in 8th edition, for every unit slot you filled, you could bring a dedicated transport. I kind of like this change now, because you can't game it by taking like some heavy support tanks and stuff like that and opening up dedicated transport slots for you. It kind of never really made sense and felt a little gamey back in 8th when you could do that. So now that you can only do that with infantry, so however many infantry you have, I assume it'll still work for HQs. So if you have like a captain, he's still infantry, so you can take a dedicated transport for him if you really wanted to. So let's say if you had the bare minimum HQ, you could have 2 captains and 3 scout squads or something like that. You could technically bring 5 dedicated transports. You have to pay for them, of course, but you could take 5 dedicated transports, because that's 5 different infantry units that you would have in your list. So now, based off of reading this and the fact that it's going to cost command points to bring detachments, I think a lot of armies are going to go from playing like 2 battalions down to 1 battalion. Because you can still fit your 6 troops in here if you really wanted to. You can still fit a ton of elites. You still get 3 heavy support, which is usually more than you'll need. And if not, I assume you just bring a spearhead now, which I assume will probably only cost 1 command point, maybe? I don't know. We have to wait and see how much those detachments cost. Future Brady chiming in again while I'm editing this video. So this is also going to be a little bit different for armies that like to soup up different factions within their faction. So for example, current Eldari list, they would have like 2 or 3 different detachments that all were different craft worlds, some of them being custom craft worlds, because you would take a custom craft world for like a battalion that had your jet bikes and stuff in it, so that way they can get like +1 to charge and +1 attack if they're near an objective. But then you would also take another detachment that had like 3 night spinners in it, and you'd give them ignoring cover and also re-rolling a failed hit and wound. So this is going to be interesting to see if people still end up doing that. It really honestly matters how much these extra detachments are going to cost, like a spearhead and stuff like that. Because if they cost way too many command points, then they might not be taken. If they're not that much, like they're only 1 or 2 command points to bring those, then they might still be worth it. Even still though, like I was saying earlier, playing with around 12 command points, like 10 to 12 command points, is still a very good amount of command points to play most armies with. So it might actually be worth it for certain armies to still soup up and spend those command points and start the game at around 12, 13, whatever command point. Or if you're playing in one of the brackets that only gives you 12 command points to start, and so you spend all of that and maybe you start the game with like 8 command points, well, you're still going to generate like 6 command points during the game because you now get a free command point every turn in your command phase. So you're going to end up getting up to that like 10, 12, 13 mark of command points. Like, for example, I could see Chaos trying to do this. I could see Eldari trying to do this. I can see Drukhari trying to do this. Because that's the other thing, too. When you have armies like Drukhari has, like, 3 armies within the one army. Because you have Cabals, Cults, and Covens. So you're usually incentivized to bring at least 2 of those in one list. So it's going to be interesting to see how those armies are played, too. Again, it really just depends on how much these other detachments, like spearheads and stuff, are going to cost. And if the value you gain from that detachment is worth bringing compared to getting like an extra 2 turns of using Agents of Vect or something like that. You're the boss. The concept was heavily inspired by the narrative and enables you to manage your army selection in a manner of a real commander. You can either maximize your command points with a single detachment or choose to draw upon powerful assets and summon allies to cause your command points to unlock additional detachments. But there's more. Not only do you start the battle with more command points, but in each of your command phases, the new opening phase of the turn, you will receive 1 additional command point. Boom, there it is, right there. So that's what I was saying earlier on in the video. I guess that's now actually officially a thing. We're going to gain a command point at the beginning of every turn. So in those games earlier that I said, if you're playing orcs in this points range, you're going to technically have 18 command points throughout the game. So that's still more than enough than you're probably going to need. That also means a lot of armies that were kind of starved are just going to get a ton of command points throughout the game now. So this is going to be kind of weird. Imagine Drukhari now with 18 command points being able to just Agents of Vect you every turn. That's probably going to need an FAQ. That's definitely going to need an FAQ, 100%. Even as a Drukhari player myself, that's probably going to need the change. That's going to get annoying for a lot of people. So command phase. Commanders gauge the flow of battle, consolidating their objectives before making alterations to the battle plans and devising new tactics and strategies with which to defeat the foe. If your army is battle forged, then at the start of your command phase, before doing anything else, you gain 1 command point. This is called the battle forged CP bonus. Awesome. Some of your abilities found on datasheets and some stratagems are used in your command phase. In addition, some missions have rules that take place in the command phase. Once you and your opponent have resolved all of these rules, if any, progress to your movement phase. So this is interesting that they're actually changing some abilities and stratagems to only work in the command phase. I'm interested to see which ones they pick. To be honest, off the top of my head, I'm not really sure which ones they're going to pick, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. I want to see what stratagems actually get moved to the command phase and what abilities do. Maybe like auras will be in there, like maybe you have to activate your auras now, which would kind of suck, but I don't know, it's all speculation at this point because we don't really have too much information, but I do like this change. This is going to be cool. Anything that puts the game more tactically focused, I like. So I believe that's what this is going to do, so yeah, happy with this. More stratagems for everyone. With all these command points lying around the place, you're going to want some extra stratagems to spend them on, right? Thankfully, the core stratagems available to every army have been increased to 7. Wow. So I believe there was only... There was the reroll, so there's 1. There was auto pass morale. There was 2. There was give your whole army cover if you go second. That's turn 2, or there's 3. Oh, and interrupt. So there was 4. I believe there was 4 in 8th edition. So now there's 7, so they've added 3 more. Have you managed to fight your way across the battlefield only for your enemies to flee like cowards before the fury of your chain blades? Cut them down as they withdraw with this handy and aptly named stratagem. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit falls back. Before any models in that unit are moved, roll 1d6 for each model from your army that is within engagement range of that enemy unit. For the result of 6 that you... Oh my god. This is going to be so good for horde armies like orcs and Tyranids and people trying to run away from them. Because you're going to have like 30 bodies, assuming you have like 30 bodies when they go to leave you. So that's like 30 dice. You're going to kill a few models with that 1 command point for sure. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. And I guess that's it for this article. So it's cool that they're buffing melee armies, and especially horde armies, because I know a couple of my patrons were tripping out and thinking that hordes are now dead based off of the rules that they released yesterday, which to be honest, I don't necessarily agree with. I admit, based off of what we saw yesterday, it doesn't look amazing for hordes, but we don't, the thing is we don't know the entire picture, so we have to wait and see what else Games Workshop releases in order for us to know what's gonna be good and what isn't. And I don't think Games Workshop is just gonna entirely like nerf hordes to the point where they're unplayable and not competitive. So yeah, for people that are worried about that kind of stuff, just give it time, wait and see. Overall though, I'm still loving everything that they're releasing, and if I assume Games Workshop is going to release more daily reveals, and so I'm going to be making daily videos for the time being to cover all this stuff and give you my thoughts on them. And I guess that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button since it does help out the channel with the YouTube algorithm. And if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more 40k content like this, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button to be notified when I post a new video. If you find yourself enjoying the channel and its content a lot and you'd like to help the channel even further outside of watching the videos and sharing them with your friends, I do have a Patreon. There are different tiers of pledges, including a $5 pledge that gets you access to the Almost Pro Gaming Discord server, where you can get advice on the game and list building from myself, a $10 tier that gets you the same rewards as the $5 tier, but also your Discord name or a name of your choosing at the end of every one of my videos, like you can see in the video right now. And there's also a $15 tier that gets you all those same rewards, plus a custom army list built by myself. This tier is great for new players that don't know where to start and want a good army list to start out the game with. So if you wanted to help the channel even more, or just receive any of those rewards, then consider making a pledge on Patreon. With that said, thanks to all my past and current patrons. You guys and gals are awesome, and I love you all. Without you, the channel would not be where it's at today, so honestly, I can't thank you all enough. And thank you to everyone who watches my videos. I love you guys as well. So I guess that's it. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy wargaming.